Hello, everyone. I am Catherine Rouse, an artist and painter here in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. And today, well, not today, but for the past couple of weeks, I have been working on revamping my 2025 watercolor palette. For the most part, I'm a creature of habit. I like to stick to the colors that I know and love and can anticipate how they mix and how they mingle and all of that good stuff. But this year, for some reason, I was itching for a little change, all the way from my yellows to my blues, slightly in my reds, and even my greens, for the most part, and my neutral colors as well. So, I would love to go through with you a little bit about my process of choosing these colors. Um, and right now, you can see I am laying out the my grid for swatching these out. So I'm going to go over the colors as I swatch them. Ooh, sorry, my hair. A mess, I'd say. But first, let's talk about kind of where I'm coming from. Here I've swatched out on the top row the palette that I typically work with. So those are the colors that I use often and all the time. And you can see a little bit of difference on the bottom row. And I'll go into more about the colors I chose, but I just thought it would be nice to show a comparison there and begin here. So I made this spiral bound book with some paper that I got. It's 100% cotton, but it's on the more affordable side. I'll have links for those things in my description below. But I love creating sketchbooks just to mess in, and that way I don't have paper scattered all over my desk. And as you know, I'm doing a sketchbook challenge with Bree from Documented Journey. She's doing lots of awesome videos, so go check that out. And this is also a version of sketchbooking. It's working out color, it's working out palettes, it's just whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be beautiful. So here I'm showing you colors I'm testing out and just kind of seeing the difference, even though they're similar shades of color, hues. Some are granulating, some are not, and I'm just kind of use that as a visual guide. What do I need? What can I get rid of? What mixes do I like? Just so I run through that over and over again in these pages, and I do the same on this one. I do a little color mixing, and then I even kind of towards the end will mix them on this page, seeing all the different varieties of green, all the different types of purples, the colors that aren't in the palette and the neutrals, and then I'll kind of dwindle it down to my set colors and then circle the mixes that end up making it to the palette. And then that way I can visually kind of see what's going on. So here I've been making color cards, which I really, really love. I think I did this years ago, but right now I've just kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of nerding out on color. And I'm showing you here an example of how going through color and sort of doing some research will show you just the nuances of different colors. So the sample on the top right above is Daniel Smith's version of Cobalt Teal Blue. And below, I'm showing you how I'm changing to the American Journey version of Cobalt Teal. They are different pigments. The top Daniel Smith version is PG 50, and the Cobalt Teal from American Journey is PB 36, I believe. And I love the brilliance of this version over the other one, and also that it's less granulating. Just because what I'm going for with this palette, and I'm only got two blues, um, I just felt like this would be a better version for me. So I'm showing you how by having both of these colors on these swatch cards are going to be really useful for me in going through and really studying the nuances of the color. I can look at it, how it looks washed out, how it looks when it cauliflowers, how it is in mass tone. So all of those things are information that you can visually see on these cards. And the one on the left and the top there is Cascade Green, which is just a color I love and adore. Anyway, so I'm finishing off my mass tone there, and you can just see it's very subtle, but the American Journey version which I've heard is made by the same people that make Da Vinci paints. Is just a little brighter, a little less green, and a little more of a solid color, if that makes any sense. So I've tried some mixes with it, and I feel like it's just what I'm looking for. Now, I'm going to let that dry, set it aside. Where are you going to set that down? Oh my goodness. Okay. Now, what am I doing here? Oh, I'm going to show you the other big, slight, minor shift I made is with my blue. So I will often have ultramarine blues, cerulean blue chromium. Those are very granulating blues. And then I'll have phthalo blue green shade. Well, I'm switching over to phthalo blue red shade. So on the top there I'm pointing is the green shade on the left and then the red shade on the right. And I am pointing out how the red shade is warmer and more similar to ultramarine, but without granulation. I was thinking about Indian Throne as another option, but I like that this color doesn't have as much of a drying shift when it dries. Obviously, let's be redundant, but uh, yeah. So it mixes really well. It's got a lot of pigment to it, and I think it'll be really fun. Um, Fun option, and then it helps me get to more earthy greens, being the red shade of blue versus the green shade, if that makes sense. And then the other thing, let's see, I've pointed out, I've got the name of the color, the title, all that kind of stuff there, what brand. And so this plate here, what I'll do, I work in wooden palettes and I make the wooden palettes and I sell the wooden palettes also. But while I'm still figuring out my colors, I'll put them on a plate like this and just be able to use them and play with them before I commit to putting them in a palette. So I'm going to make a wooden palette for these colors, for these 14. And I'll have a video in the near future where I put that all together and then fill it and then swatch it again. Yay. But I tried out these colors from the plate on this new band poster I made for a local band here that's really awesome. You should look them up. Um, they play traditional Irish music. So that was a really fun project. And so it's kind of nice to give them a test run of sorts. And the brush I'm going to be using is this Fumui sable hair brush. I really love these brushes. So I have the silver black velvet. I have a lot of really, really nice expensive brushes, but I keep reaching for these brushes that I got, and I'll put the link down below for these. You can get a set of them for only like $20. They're also the same brand that I use for my travel brushes, and I absolutely love them. I love everything about them. So I have no issues with them. I highly recommend them if you're looking for starter brushes. Um, yeah, I think they're great. And then these are little cards that I've cut up because I'm going to be sending out paint swatches to my patrons that are in the mail tier. So I'm going ahead and putting this color down. That is the Pat's Coastal Blue, I think. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. I don't know. I'm just messing around on my desk here. Let's see. Okay, let's begin. I really love swatching with showing the gradient, but kind of having it in this like fun little window. So I'm putting water into the center of the rectangle, and we'll have the color darkest on the edges, and then have it blend and flow into the center. So the first color I'm using is Indian Yellow by Daniel Smith. It is a mixture of Hansa Yellow Medium and Nicolazo Yellow. And so it kind of has the best of both of those. And you can see here why I really think that getting a dot card is great, because when you look at the Indian Yellow on this like paint chart that's printed, it is so different. It looks more orange than what you actually get in the tube. So, I feel like those can sometimes be misleading. I don't know why that is so off. It really is. But here you will see I'm adding the water, just kind of giving it somewhere to flow. And I'm using the bow hung 100% cotton hot press paper. I really love this paper. And I'm just coming around and gonna fill in the rectangle here. I love this color for its vibrancy, that it's very transparent. So like a Hansa yellow medium is a really beautiful color, but it's not as transparent as I love. So mixing it with the nickel azo yellow with this Indian yellow, it's more vibrant, it's more transparent, less opaque, and it has a little bit more of earth, but not too much. It's just the right mix. Before I was using Aureolin by Holbein, which is a hue, and I really love their mixture. Way more light fast. It's a very light fast version, and you can see here just kind of the variety I get with this one color. Next up is another color I'm super excited about because, like I said, I'm craving vibrancy. So I really love Aussie Red Gold. I love Quinacridone Burnt Orange. But this quinacridone sienna is going to make the palette right here, because if I mix this quinacridone sienna with the Indian yellow, um, which I did in my sketchbook, I found I can make an Aussie red gold, and I can also dull it down with a little bit of red for the Quin burnt orange, and it gives me this vibrant, vibrant brown, neutral reddish tint that I've kind of been craving. I've been noticing when I use burnt sienna or even like dragon's blood from MaimeriBlu or permanent brown, which is the Daniel Smith version. I love the vibrancy, but I've kept craving more and more of that. And so I'm going to have that here with this color. It also will neutralize and knock down my blues, and yeah, it's testing with it and playing with it. It's just what I've been craving. So um, that's a nice earthy red, if you will. Of course you will. And I'm putting that card up beside of it because I think it's also important to start to memorize and recognize the color shift of paint, and knowing which colors, which paints you have that are going to shift a lot when they dry, and which ones are going to just kind of be a little more stable. And this is my Bao Hung sketchbook. I used this palette on this page here, my new palette, and I really enjoyed the soft texture and the transparency of it. But I also know I can see here on these swatches that I can build up that color even more if I'm wanting to get more saturation. So the next color is, well, I was on the fence about this one. So I was somewhere between, these are all the reds I really love, Quinacridone Magenta and Pyrrole Scarlet, but I was going for either Quinacridone Coral or this Sandal Red, or Quinacridone Rose. So I was thinking about all these. That's a watercolor stick by Cheap Joe's, but Daniel Smith also makes them. They're really great. I might still throw it in my bag and just kind of keep it as an option for certain flowers. But you can see here the coral and the sandal red are very similar. So I chose the sandal red mainly just to kind of use it up. I have a tube of it that a friend kindly gifted me. And I did a lot of mixes with it, and I was pretty happy with how those came out. And so I'm just going to put that here. It's not the most vibrant. It doesn't have that punch that Pyrrole Scarlet has. That really, really warm, almost orange punch of Pyrrole Scarlet. It's a little bit softer, but I can see this being really useful for spring flowers. I'm thinking a lot about that right now, and hikes that I can't wait to take, and flowers to find and paint. So those are all the things that are going through my head as I am painting right here. Quinacridone Magenta by Holbein is one of my favorite colors. It is vibrant. It is light fast. I've done my own light fast testing in my south facing windows for a year or so with this color, and I really love how deep it can get in its mass tone and how light and bright it can be when you um, water it down and let it kind of explore its opacity a little bit more. So another color that I was considering for this position was Quinacridone Rose, and I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to do a little card for you with the American Journey Quinacridone Rose stick of paint, and just show you the difference between the two, because I think that's really useful. This is a beautiful pink, but I'm just not able to get the same depth and vibrance with it. And if I'm just going to have one pink in my palette, I'm going to go for the magenta just because I can get a little more variety with it, if that makes sense. So these watercolor sticks are pretty fantastic. They're really great to have. I'm going to keep this one with my palette. And that way I don't have to worry about adding it in. It can kind of just be like a little add-on color. And they're very, very pigmented. They work just as well as your dried half pans. I don't really understand the magic of them. But I just use a wet brush and get the pigment right off of the stick that I need. I've tried it with it directly onto the page, but I just prefer using it like paint and not like a crayon. And you can see here just the subtle difference between the two colors and why I chose this one. The next color I am prepping is Quinacridone Purple. So I don't like deep, dark purples in my palette. I love those colors in general. I like to mix them. I like to make them. But for my palette, I really love this color. And especially since I only have like the one deep blue, this purple is going to be perfect for making and mixing, well, just different colors. Let's be honest. Mixing it even with my greens to make earthy tones. Earthy tones, is that a word? I know better than that, but it works. And I really love how this one still has a vibrance to it. So I can deepen it up, I can lighten it down, and it almost has like a lavender sort of undertone to it. So that one's PV55, I think. This next color is one of my all-time favorites. It's Goethite, also known as Brown Ochre by Daniel Smith. And it granulates. It's one of the few granulating paints in this palette. And I was trying not to have like a specific brown, not a specific brown, but like a deep brown. I was trying to do without that in this palette, but I still wanted this Goethite, and it'll help. It'll mix, and it's just great. If I need it for landscapes, if I need it for toning down greens, so I can mix really vibrant greens with this palette, but if I want to tone them down, adding a little bit of that Goethite is really excellent. The next color here is Indian Red. The Daniel Smith version is my absolute favorite. I've tried a few others, but I love the kind of the cool mauve, like almost purple undertones of this Indian Red. It's PR 101, which also is used for like a Venetian red and other varieties, but I really, really love the mixes I get with this Indian Red. And when you wash it out and thin it out, you get something that I like to think of as a great replacement for having a Potter's Pink. So Potter's Pink only does Potter's Pink basically in your palette. It's a great mixing color. But here with the Indian Red, I can make grays with my blues. I can water it down and have pink. It just kind of feels a lot more purpose with one slot. The next one's going to be that Cobalt Teal I was talking about with American Journey. And, well, I've told you all about that. My next color coming up is going to be Phthalo Blue Red shade. I already showed you the difference between that and the blue shade. I don't know. I keep going back to this teal. It's just really fun to play with. Okay, move on, Catherine. Here we go. Phthalo Blue Red shade, PB 15.6 by Daniel Smith. It's just, I don't know. I have never thought about using this color before. I think I've always kind of gone with the ultramarine and phthalo blue green shade kind of tradition of warm and cool blues. And so it's really fun to kind of step outside of that and try something else. So I get really nice light blues with this color, and then you can also get some really nice deep dark blues as well. And mixing it with the other colors in my palette, I'm going to have some really nice options and make some beautiful purples and some muted purples, kind of the whole variety. Even the greens, because this is the red shade of blue, I get more earthy toned greens. I don't know why I was bringing out that paint chip. Maybe I was talking more about the drying shift. I'm not sure. Let's move on to the next color, Phthalo Turquoise. So a couple phthalos. Phthalos are so strong. They are very, very strong pigments. So you don't need much. They go a long way. And I'm showing you here kind of how the row that I have for Phthalo Turquoise really stands out. Very different from the blue, even though they're in a similar family. It really has its own power within the mixes that I can create with it. And this version by Daniel Smith is beautiful. It's I think it is PB 36 and PB 15.3 mixed together. I'll have to see if I slide my paper up. That would be nice, Catherine, because I have it on the page, but of course I can't see it here. But it makes really beautiful greens with the yellows and even the burnt sienna or the quinacridone sienna. It'll make a green right there for us. And then I also love the jewel tone purples. Like if you mix this with magenta or with the quinacridone purple. So I'm showing you here that this pamphlet talks about the versions and the varieties that the colors come in. So the ones that come in sticks. So I kind of like the idea of maybe having undersea green or some other things in a stick variety just to kind of carry around with me if they haven't made the palette. And even the Cascade Green, which is not in a stick form. But the next color I've chosen is green gold. This is the Daniel Smith green gold because typically every other paint brand says green gold is PY 129. Daniel Smith calls their PY 129 rich green gold, and then they have this green gold color that is a mixture of 3 pigments. Of course, I can't see what they are right now. We'll hopefully slide the paper up. That would be nice if we did that. But it's a little earthier than typical like spring greens that you'll see in palettes. Like one of my first palettes that I got was um, by Schminke. Here I'm showing you that this is kind of a good mixture between having the rich green gold and the sap green. It sort of lies in between those two for me. And it had a spring green in it. I just never was drawn to that. But this one's more of like kind of an apple green, which is really nice. The next color, which I always have, is Perylene green. And you can see right there, I touched the paper while I still had lotion on my hands. And so the page is resisting. Before I started filming, I made sure to wash my hands and clean them really well so I didn't have too many oils and especially lotions this season to transfer onto my page because that'll act as a resist on from the watercolor. So this color is exceptional. It'll make really beautiful like spruce forests when you mix it with the phthalo turquoise or the phthalo blue. It'll make beautiful greens with the yellows and even the goethite, and also mixed with that green gold, I can get a really beautiful kind of sappy green. And it makes a really beautiful color mixed with your magentas, almost like purples, deep purples, and earthy colors with the quinacridone sienna. Just it's awesome. When I do my palette filling, I'll be doing some of these mixes for you. Okay, now you can see the pigment colors down there for these colors. And next to the last, oh, I'm so excited about this color. Okay, this one is from American Journey. It's one of their signature colors it's called Pat's Coastal Blue. And this color, I'm going to show you how I'm going to use this color. So I'm going to use it as an underpainting instead of using uh, pencil lines. I can use this to lightly sketch out a landscape or flower kind of outlines. But then look at this. So a lot of times I have buff titanium. It's a very popular color to have in a palette. But if I mix this gray with a little bit of goethite, I can warm it up ever so slightly. And then here, I'm also going to mix it with a little bit of Phthalo blue, the red shade in my palette, and show you kind of the sky blue that I can get there that's unique and different from anything else on my palette. And let me show you that mixture of the goethite with the coastal blue. I'm gonna get to it, and I'm gonna show you how it is very similar to buff titanium. So it gives me a lot of options. It can dull down any of these colors on my palette, and I don't know, it's always kind of fun to have something like that to work with. But this doesn't have white in it, which I really love. It's PBR7 and PB36. See, that's the buff titanium right beside of that mixture I just did, and they are almost indistinguishable. So this is a more transparent version or option than buff titanium. So this is Joseph Z's cool gray. I love how this color separates. It says it's granulating, but it's really not that granulating. This is by Daniel Smith. It's one of their signature series. I love this as a replacement for indigo or Payne's gray. It just kind of has a lot more going on, and I did a lot of mixing with it, and I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a great addition to get deeper colors, mix it with the Payne's or with the Indian red and get some nice browns. Just all over, really cool. I love how the pink, I think there's PV19 in it, kind of separates, and it's a light fast color, which is really important to me. So I can get some really, really deep hue value. Sorry, using my words incorrectly. And then also some really light grays. So I kind of have two different light grays in this palette, but I think they're going to be great for neutralizing these very bright colors that I have without having like a real brown color. So here it is. I hope that you stick around and watch my next video and go over to Documented Journey and see her sketchbook pages and join us on Discord as we are all filling our sketchbooks with the sketchbook challenge. And yeah, happy painting. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much to my patrons. I have a small little community over there, but I'm so thankful for them. They kind of help keep my little artist life going. And check out my website. Every little order helps me out tremendously. I've been a full-time artist for over 15 years, and it means the world to me, and I'm so thankful that you're here. And can't wait to share more art and inspiration and ideas with you. Leave me some questions in the comments below, and I look forward to hearing what's your must-have color in your palette. All right, bye.